Going live. Going live. We are going live today. Hello, everybody. I am here, only 4 minutes late for my own live video, but it's only because, my friends, I am trying to provide to you a tremendous service. Hopefully, you hear me. I think my mic needs to come up a little bit. That must be better. All right, let's start this right here. So last week, on the very first Make Music Income Live, I talked about sync licensing a lot. And hey, if anybody is watching this right now who can give me a thumbs up in the chat to just let me know that they can hear me and you can see me and nothing looks completely out of place. And just give me a big thumbs up if you can, or a hello that you can hear me, as I am not necessarily monitoring this. Oh, you know what I could do? I could get my trusty iPad. Trusty iPad. Royalty free. I got a thumbs up. All right. Hey, Mtune, Gary Lee, thanks for joining me. White Beam Road Studios, thanks for joining me. You guys hearing me okay there? I'm just going to look at myself on another screen just to make sure everything is copacetic, as we say, as I say about myself. So, copacetic, as we say. Yeah, it looks good. Be quiet. So, welcome to a little earlier version today of Make Music Income Live. The reason I'm going early is because we have some different things that are going on. Good morning, DigiJ. Thanks for joining today. And we are going to have some deep conversation today, folks. This subject, is stock music worth it, is something that it's going to sound pretty bleak at first as I get started with this. You're going to think, oh my gosh, why do I even, should I even exist on this earth? This is going to be a little bleak at first, but this is a question that we are all asking. Hey, Pete, glad to be able to have you here on this live video. Thanks so much for watching our videos, and thanks for everybody for being here so far. So, last week I talked about sync licensing. If you haven't seen last week, you can go, and I'll put the link up here afterwards to where I talk about my sync licensing strategy. And that's what I talked about last week on my live. And this week, I gave viewers, as far as on the channel, two different possibilities of things I wanted to talk about. One was sync stock licensing, and then another one was basically imposter syndrome, and we may even delve into that a little bit today as we talk about stock music. But this week, I want to ask a question, and since this is live and we'll be talking for a while, I'll come back to the question a few times and in a few different ways, really kind of spin it off in different directions as I talk about this. So first, let me say this is the second Make Music Income Live, and I've been kind of trying to find a way to get started live on YouTube, and this is it. This is the perfect time for me in my week to do this. I think it is pretty early for people on the West Coast, I understand, but thank you, everybody who is joining me from all around the world for this, and hope to have lots more people join here after a while. Now, just like last week, this will not be kind of a staring, looking at the screen, answering questions that someone asks. I don't like those kind of videos where I watch somebody live and all they're doing is looking at the screen waiting for questions. So I have prepared some information here for you. And also, since this video is going to go out on my channel, I want to make sure it's somewhat evergreen, it's somewhat useful for people rather than just only answering questions. But I am absolutely interested in your questions. So make sure that you ask questions at any time. Hey, M2, thanks. 9 p.m. in India. Well, see, because some good evening watching, some good evening broadcast for you. And hopefully my wife always says my voice puts her to sleep. So maybe it'll give you some soothing tones to help you get ready to go to sleep in India. But thanks so much for joining me. That's so cool that everyone from Wisconsin to India is watching right now. It's mind-boggling. But usually this will be at 11 a.m. Eastern time. But today, Steve and I have to do our podcast taping today a little earlier, and then I have to go see Batman. So it's a busy day, folks. I can't just. I have to really schedule everything just perfectly. But um, so I'm glad you joined. Please ask any questions as we go along. I'll be happy to answer them. I'll stop every now and then and try to answer questions. But I do have stuff to say, and I do have a topic today. And uh, a lot, like I talked about last week, I'm not going to be staring at the screen, but and then asking questions and answering questions and pontificating. And I mean, I will be pontificating. I'll certainly be pontificating. I might even expound on something. There might even be sermonizing. There could be dogmatizing and lots of other big words that I didn't have time to look up. But welcome to this live chat. So, hey, Frodo, thanks for coming from Germany. And Jose is from Mexico. Wow, we are all over the globe today. Thank you, guys and gals, whoever's watching, for joining the live today. It's just a blessing to talk to you guys. So, one thing I will let you know is before we get started is about the free stuff I have. Some of you probably already know about this, but if you haven't checked out this channel before, or if you haven't had a chance to look at this stuff, hey, White Bean from Sweden. All right, Swedes. I do have stuff at makemusicincome.com/free. You probably know about this if you follow this channel, but if you don't, I have a book called 50 Ways to Make Music Income. It started out as 25 and then it grew to 35. And then I said, hey, why not just make it 50? And these are all things that I have literally made income from doing music, and maybe you have too, but there might be some things in that list that you haven't. So you can find that below in the notes, or you will be able to once I edit this video, but you can just go to makemusicincome.com/free and you can find that. It's just a short little ebook, very quick read, very good read. I also did a little video about Pawn 5 a few weeks ago. By the way, you can see my full Pawn 5 video here, or just search for it on the channel. Just a few weeks ago, I did that, and I made a short little video course for how to upload your music to Pawn 5. So you can also check that out at the same link. So these are both free, and you can find those at makemusicincome/free. Makemusicincome.com/free. You can find all the free stuff. So go get free stuff. So, thanks so much for everybody who has joined so far. We got 12 people with us. That's cool. So I think when we ask the question, is stock music worth it? What we're really asking is all the time I spend making these songs, uploading them, tagging these songs, and then checking them every single week to see if I have sales or see if anyone's even looking at them. Especially if the libraries are bringing in nothing or very little back, is it really worth all that time? Stock music, and we're actually going to talk about sync in this in a way here in a minute, but I know there's a tendency to think when you put your stock music out there, is my music worth anything? Is it any good? And we, like I said, we could get into issues of imposter syndrome and am I good enough? And maybe we'll get into some of that today. And if you have questions like that about that, I'll be happy to talk about that as well today. But I think you really need to look at your time. To me, this is what this is all about. Is stock music worth it? Is sync licensing worth it? Is anything worth it? I think that this is definitely something that you have to look at your time. How much is your time worth? This is what I've really moved to with my stock music licensing. If you've been watching any of my videos about stock, especially once Motion Array started paying less, it definitely became an issue of how much time then I would have to change, how I would have to change, the amount of time I spent on stock music each week because um, I did a list today, and I'll be talking about it in our podcast today, which our podcast actually airs on Monday, but Steve and I shoot it on Thursdays. But I did a quick, like, um, I don't know. I did a quick kind of like list of some of the things I do for clients, and I just included 8 of them, 8 things I was doing for clients, and that's not even half the list of what I do only for clients every week. Like your job, whatever your job is outside of music, if you have one, like a full-time job. I have a full-time job too. So I only have so much time, just like you. We're in the same boat. Only have so much time to put towards stock music, which is a passive income stream for me, and it likely is a passive income stream for you too. So I think that's why we have to look at this as how much is your time worth, not how is stock music worth doing, which we'll get into that question, but what is your time worth, and how much time should you spend on stock music licensing? How much time can you spend on it and put into it based on the data that you have from what you make? And all of us have data going back. Some of us have data going back years, like Stevie B and other people have been doing this for 4 years or more. So people like Daniel have been doing this for 10 years. And there are people who can look at their data through the years. Now, they've also had to deal with the changes, right, that have happened because of stock, because of libraries changing, Audio Jungle changing the way they pay, Pond 5 changing the way they pay, and now Motion Array changing the way they pay. So we certainly have to look at this and go, okay, so now last year when I was making $300 or $400 from Motion Array alone, and then another 100 or more from other libraries, but mainly Audio Jungle and Pond 5, I could say it was worth this much time weekly away from my other client work and income to write new songs or upload new songs and tag them. And just by the way, Intune here says 123 RF V fine and motion elements disappointed me a lot. No sales at all. Yeah, I hear you. Absolutely. Frodo says royalty-free music, same for me. The only sales I get are from AJ and P5. Yeah. Motion Array, Audio Jungle, P5. Those are my top 3. At the end of the year, I did a kind of a poll. If you participated in that, thank you. And a lot of people answered pretty much that if they were in Motion Array, that was their first earning library. If they weren't in Motion Array, usually it was Audio Jungle and or Pond 5. That was their top library. So that's pretty much, that's what we can expect to be the top libraries. But last year, Motion Array was shockingly, amazingly good. I mean, I cannot believe how much that I was making from day one on a daily basis. And now that being said, it's still something, and like I said, last year, I could count on $300 or $400 for Motion Array. I could count on $100 a month, probably from Audio Jungle and Pond 5 and a few others. And so it was worth it. The time was worth it. And this month, just this month, by the way, and I mean, the money I'm going to get on the 15th, which is our usual stock music payday, right? I'm going to get $53 from Motion Array. And I'm lucky because if I'd made $4 less, I wouldn't be getting anything because they have a $50 minimum, I believe. So, dudes and dudettes, this is a different world now that we live in with losing this, especially if you're a Motion Array artist. Now, I do know some Motion Array artists who are still doing pretty great. But when they were making $1,200 and now they're making $800, or if they were making 1,000 and now they're only making 500, that's a big cut for them as well. And I don't think I'm going to get paid $53 every month. I am looking at some things that to do to bring that up, and I think March is going to be a better month, and January turned out to be a good month because of some bonuses. So, um, but with $53, I have to really look at that, and then and no other library has paid me more than $53. Frodo says, "Would you still recommend getting into Motion Array from zero now that they're paying less?" Well, absolutely. Why not? I mean, would you rather make nothing by not joining them, or something from being part of them? Why not? It's not what it used to be, where I literally took a new artist in November to Motion Array, and she had a $600 month in December at Motion Array with about 6 to 10 songs in her library. She has so far in 2022, since the price change, probably not even made $100 yet. That's how different it is. Now, a lot of her songs were Christmas songs, especially she had one big, huge hit. And Motion Array is a place where you can have a hit, and it changes your entire landscape of what you make from Motion Array. It's funny that you can have hits, just like on the radio, you can have hits on stock music libraries, but you really can. And she did. She had a really nice working song, but it was a Christmassy song, and so yeah, she absolutely had a great month. But since then has not, even though we're putting more catalog in, so we'll just have to see. Now, she also put a lot of Easter stuff in, and we have Easter stuff coming in, and I may talk about the Easter briefs that I got into the other day. I'll certainly talk about it in our podcast, but I may talk about it today. Dane says, "Hi, do these pay out monthly?" Absolutely, Dane. Well, they do if you meet a certain threshold of money. With Motion Array, it's $50. I think Audio Jungle is also $50, and with Pond 5, it's $25. And as long as you meet that monthly thing, yeah, absolutely. They pay every month, usually around the 15th. Not everybody does that, but most of the libraries do play that. Hey, Dave, good morning, my friend. Get you a nice beverage and sit down and join us here for a little bit. My interview with Dave Croft, who has just shown up in the chat here, will be airing this weekend or sometime this week. I've done all the shooting. I just have to finish up the editing. There's not much editing to it, but should be airing this weekend on Your Second Cup. Very good. So yeah, I've got an interview with Dave, and we talk about all sorts of things. Dave, especially Dave's sync licensing and his job and how those things go together. So it's going to be lots of fun when we talk. So make sure, if you're not subscribed to this channel, make sure you subscribe to see that interview. It'll be coming up here in the next few days, soon as somebody gets it edited. All right. So again, I think you have to look at your time when you're involved with stock music. This sync licensing, which we'll talk about actually here in a minute, and how this figures in. You know, I can't keep putting the same amount of time into Motion Array that I was putting into it last year when I only get $53 at the end of a month. That is worth, in my head, about an hour of my time. And so now this next month is probably going to be different. February was a short month. It's a down month for people. There's really no holidays there. There's not many people. There's not many things to make videos for, and that's where most of them have been. So why do I still do it? Why, if I don't get paid enough or get enough sales from all these libraries, why do I continue to do stock music? Especially this year, where stock music is not an experiment any longer for me. It's not something that I'm thinking, hey, let's see if I can make any money from this. I know I made money from it last year. I know it's a good passive income, and I'm going to keep that stuff up there. I'm not just taking stuff down off libraries. But my goal this year has been to put at least one song per week into stock. I love to make music. This is why I do it. I just, probably like you, I love to make music for any reason, and actually, one of the reasons I have problems with briefs, I think, is because it feels a little too much like work. For the last 21 years, my job has been to create productions for clients. And it got so bad to the point in 2015, 2014, 2015, 2016 that I was not writing at all. And that cannot stand. So, why do I still do stock? It probably has to do with, yeah, I want that passive income coming in, but I also just like making stuff. The stuff I can make for stock music is is stuff that is anything I want, and that's kind of the beauty about licensing in some ways, especially if you're writing to pitch it to a library. You're not writing it for a brief. You're not writing on request. You're writing just because you want to write something like that. And stock is a low pressure writing environment. And that's why I like writing for it. I write a lot of stuff that does not fit into my exclusive music category, and I talk about that in a video that I will put up here, and you can see it on my channel. It's called Drawing the Line Between Stock Music and Exclusive Music and how I think of both. But this could also the stock music, a lot of it that I put up is also stuff that I just didn't get for whatever reason. I didn't get into an exclusive library when I pitched it. And I've tried and tried and tried, and it just doesn't seem to be a fit for the libraries that I work with or new libraries. So it goes into stock. But um, my goal this year is to create at least one song per week for stock, and I have exceeded that so far and doing okay with my goals. Very much like my friend Dave, who his whole channel is built around doing one song per week, 52 cues, doing one cue per week, every single week, making sure you get that one song done. And that's what I do. Now I get more than one. Ronan, hello. Thanks for being here. Um, I get at least one done. Usually I have two or three just because of different things that are going on that I have to write for that month or whatever. But um, and they aren't songs that are going to fit into exclusive libraries, I don't think. So I've exceeded that. I'm being really careful with my time this year after the big drop in income from Motion Array. I'm at about 1 to 2 hours tops on uploading and tagging. I will always push the songs that I've just written out to whatever libraries I think that is worth it. And that list has decreased. There's a lot of libraries like Dreamstime and Deposit Photos and um, uh, VFine and a lot of these stock libraries that I'm just not going to be able to spend the time on this year because I just don't see any results from them. And so I've just started about 6 new stock libraries this year that I found, and I'll talk about them in a upcoming video. Um, and we'll see. They have an amount of time to prove themselves to make me any income, and I usually will end up putting about 50 different pieces or audio files up to a library to see how it's going to do. I have hundreds literally, and so I'll put up the most what I would call stock sounding stuff. Yeah, and Dave's talking about on his channel, 52 Qs. He's got an interview with me, so you want to make sure you go to Dave's channel and subscribe there as well. But we're going to be talking about all this stuff, folks. There's so much to talk about. There's so much information to go through that um, some people ask me why I started a second channel called Hello Composers, and you can find that right here or in down below in my description once I get this thing done. But uh, I had to because I wanted to talk about some composing things, and I wanted to talk about how to compose and things like that. But I just don't have time on this channel because there's so much music income stuff to talk about. We haven't even gotten to most of it. We're just still stuck in stock and sync, which are very interesting, I know, to most of the people watching this channel. So that's something we keep talking about. But so let me see where I am here in my notes. I'm being very careful with my time. I've had to quit some libraries that haven't paid anything. And so, yeah. Dave says, I'm curious with subscription services taking over the stock industry, how much are composers now making per use compared to previous dollar model? Well, this is a touchy subject, certainly for a lot of people, not for me. I actually prefer the subscription model because I can see how much I'm making on a daily basis, and I make more on a daily basis, and more downloads get out to be then compensated, hopefully, by content ID services that I'm part of now. I joined Identify, which as I talk about in my last video, which is called Drawing the Line Between Stock and Sync, we now have a front end and a back end, just like we have in Sync. In Sync, we have the front ends, the upfronts and or sync payments, and then we have BMI slash PROs for whatever country you're in. Well, we now have that in stock music now too. We have the upfronts, which are paid monthly on the 15th, but we also have content ID, which if you register with a service like Identify or AdRev, that can collect that. They're out there searching the YouTube videos to find your music and then collect from that. So we now have a back end for stock. And so, as far as I'm concerned, the more downloads that I get out there, the better, because and subscription libraries, you're going to get more downloads because people want your they it's all you can eat for them. So they can download as much as they want, and they may use yours more likely than if they had to pay $50 at Audio Jungle, or 25 or 15 or whatever you charge people at these other sites. And I think that I'm even trying this month a little something in stock music where if you go to my Pond5 account or my Audio Jungle account and my 123RF account, you'll see all of them are basement pricing. I went $5 on everything. And that's going to be an interesting video when I do it at the end of this month about what happened with that. Or maybe Steve and I will talk about it, but it's something we're talking about. Ronan says, what day of the week do you do your stock music uploads? Well, I don't think there is a day. I work all day doing all of this. So it could be any day when it fits in the time. I work on this Monday through Friday, all day, from the time I'm up after I'm lucid and till about 6 o'clock. And it could be any time, Rowan, any day, just depending on what other deadlines I have that week. Dave says, interesting. I would imagine that users feel less hindered to pull down music since it's buffet style and are just making it rain downloads. Absolutely. Like, for instance, I already have 100 and so I'm about to hit level 3 on Motion Array with 121 downloads. I think once I get to that step, they pay more, 5% more per download. It's still pennies. It's still 28 cents, 35 cents, whatever. It goes up by about 7 cents per download. But the upfront now is starting to become less important after we are hearing what some people are making in the back end from Content ID. In other words, the more people that download it buffet style, correct, the more possibility it could get in a YouTube video and then could get monetized in the back end. So to me, that's another way that stock music might start to become more worthwhile. It's not only about how much they're paying us monthly or not paying us monthly, but it's about how many downloads we get and how many people use them in their YouTube videos, and then how that music is monetized in the back end. So similar to a sync thing, Dave, where you would get no upfront for whatever reason, and it would be all back end, which I don't know if you've had any of those deals, but that certainly exists in the sync world, where sometimes there is no upfront. It's all just whatever you're going to get with your PRO. We're looking at that now. And so I definitely think that the buffet style, and Pond5 just opened up a subscription part of that. And so I'm excited for that. As a matter of fact, I've thought after this experiment going $5, I wondered if I should do a free experiment for a month and just put everything free except for whatever the library charges, and just get everything and just see what that does. So far, I've had significantly more downloads, which means 5 in the first 10 days at Pond 5, but I've never had 5 Pond 5 sales before at the higher prices. So we'll see, and I'll let everybody know about that once we get there. So yeah, Dave says most of my sports stuff is only back end, and so it really brings up the question with stock music: should we think about only doing worrying more about the back end? And Steve and I both, um, Steve Bedall, who I do my podcast with, or Stevie B, as you guys know him probably. Um, we are going to be watching this very carefully, but we won't really get any data until after this month to July, and then when we get paid, because we both put our stuff in to Content ID in February. So I've got over 100 files in there, I think, and he's got about half that, I believe. And so we'll find out, because Steve gets a lot of downloads at Motion Array. So it's going to be interesting if any of those are making it into YouTube's and if we get paid. July 31st will be the payday for anything from January through March. So we will see what kind of music income comes from Content ID for 2 new people putting their music into these systems. So, okay, I believe we're caught up on all the questions. Pete says, is that because those libraries offer the sports networks blanket? I'll let Pete answer that. I mean, I'll let Dave answer that. So today's Make Music Income Live is sponsored by the Make Music, or the Music Licensing Mastermind. It used to be called the Make Music Income Mastermind, but it's our mastermind for licensing. We do it every Monday at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. It's a private Zoom for people just like you trying to figure out licensing in this kind of stuff that Dave is talking about here about, and Dave and I are talking about, in sync licensing and getting paid for television and movies and advertising, or talking about stock music. We probably talk about stock music a little less in the mastermind because we're really focused on sync licensing, and I'm usually giving my update for the month about that kind of thing. And so we basically are meeting for a live hour or so, and there's could be anywhere from 6 to 12 people in this. It's pretty small, and everybody can't make it every week. So that's what we're doing here. And all right, so we would love to have you in our Make Music Licensing Mastermind, whatever it's called. We meet at 12 noon every Monday, and we go over my week in licensing, and I usually prepare something to talk about in the world of licensing. It's a great, super cheap way to get involved with me personally on screen and grow your licensing career. So I share things in that group I don't share publicly on my channel, by the way, especially about exclusive libraries. As Dave knows, we don't really talk about that much. Sometimes we will share some that we can share and some we just can't share. So much goes on in that. So if you're interested in being part of that, it's super cheap. Doesn't cost much. It's like $25 a month for 4 or 5 meetings. So go to makemusicincome.com/mastermind. And that is the pitch for the mastermind for the week. Thank you, advertiser. All right, let's see what's going on in the chat here. So Dave is saying live stuff is pulled on the fly, so networks pay a blanket license to PROs. What are your favorite keys to work on for sports stuff? Okay, I'll let you guys talk about that in the chat. I'm going to continue talking about my focus here for today, and that is stock music worth it? If you tuned into this, that's the question you're trying to figure out, and the question that we're trying to really talk about today. And so you could actually go move into sync and talk about any of this. And I'd like your comments on this, Dave. Is any licensing worth it? I mean, it's not just about stock music and being worth it. Is any kind of licensing worth your time? I have 3 exclusive libraries with 100 to 200 songs in them. But do you know how much I've made so far in them? And this is being signed back a year and a half ago. So far, I've made $0. $0. I've worked for 4 years to create catalog, and some catalog I created before that. All I get into sync libraries and pitch to briefs and opportunities for TV, film, and ads, and so far, $0. And at that time, all the creativity, all the songs, all that time, I made nothing. Now, why did I do this if there was gonna be no income? Well, I decided, and I still decide, that this is a good investment for me. Making music for exclusive sync libraries is a good investment for down the road. And I think that, you know, we've really got to be thinking about what's coming later. And stock music, you can think about that too. Yeah, Dave says making sync income is such a slow build. Yeah, it is a long, uh, it, it is a long brew. It is a long road to making income. And I started my road 4 years ago when I started hearing about it, and I started creating compositions and getting clients to work in this as well. So that was my decision. Sync is a long game, and by year's end, though, I should start to see that situation change a little bit. I already know I got some placements over Christmas from my music libraries. So, there's gonna be upfronts coming here probably in the middle of the year, and, one of my libraries pays quarterly upfronts, one of my libraries pays, semi or twice a year, and so I just don't have any data yet for you on sync licensing. But you could say that, "Is it worth it? Is it worth all the time that I've spent?" And my clients could say, "Is it worth it?" Now, all that to say, we've been able to release that music. We've been able to put that music out to Spotify and do different things. Some of the artists have released them as singles. We've been able to do other things with that music other than get placements with it. But I've been into and I've been so close to 4 and 5 figure deals with advertisements. I just did 2 briefs last week. One was for a $5,000 opportunity, and one was for, I don't know if I know the amount, but it was for a Christmas movie. So, all of this is just kind of a long game that you just have to play, and you have to decide if you wanna play it. Certainly, sync for me real still is a kind of a zero-sum game, except for the fact that I've already gotten some things out of it. It certainly helps to have all that going on for my channel, that I have right here that you're sitting here listening to. And it certainly helps in the possibilities of what could come down the road. And for me, all of this music that I'm making is hopefully legacy type stuff that brings in royalties in the future. So, how many non-exclusives do you work with in total, Eric, both sync and stock? Well, uh, oh, that's a good question because I do have a few sync libraries that I work with that are non-exclusive. One is Crucial Music, and they are a great company. You should go check them out, crucialmusic.com. They're very picky. I've only got 5 or 6 out of the 25 that I've sent them into that library, but I'm in that library. And then I'm in 3 exclusives. One is called Scorekeepers Music. You can go check that out at scorekeepersmusic.com. And then I'm in a boutique library that's kind of private, and then I'm in a library that's tied with Sony BMG. So I'm in 4-ish kind of libraries, if you will. Actually, you could probably count Audio Sparks, which I'm going to be doing a video about them next week. So that's going to be interesting. But I kind of count them as a music library a little bit, only because they don't do stock as much as they do stuff. I think they try to position themselves for film and TV, but we'll talk about that in my next video. When I have that done, it'll be right here if you're watching this later on down the road. When they're both done, when this is done and that's done. But other than that, getting back to Mullet Kid's question, getting back to how many libraries, I'm in about 25 total libraries, I would say. including all the stock libraries I'm in. So some of those, um, there's a few that haven't made a dime yet. There's a few that have made some, and I've been paid by probably five to six of those libraries, something. Actually, more than that, probably. And I'm in a lot of places like Song Trader that I've made money in, which is not necessarily a library, but it kind of acts as a sync library in ways. Um, Thoughts on spreading yourself too thin? That's good. That's a good point. For me, as you know, with a channel called Make Music Income and talking about different things on different videos every week, I am a person who believes in doing hashtag all the music things. And so I think by having income from stock music, having income from sync down the road, having income from Spotify, having and digital services, having income from clients, having income from teaching, all these things bring in income. If you are a person, I don't know what you do for a living, Mullet Kid, but this is all I do. I don't do anything else. So all the jobs are what I do, and there is no other job that I have to go to. So when you work in music full time, if anybody does, let me know. I know pretty much that Dave does, but you know, yeah, we have to take the income from any place we can get it, and any income streams we can get again that fit in our time schedule that we can balance. And it's going to be up to the individual person. I've been used to working for 20 to 40 clients a month for 20 years. So to me, working on lots of things at a time is no big deal. But you might be interested and experienced only in working in your music on one song and only your music, and the thoughts of all these different things might be uh, tough. And that's another video that we will get into, actually, all the music things. And we talked about it on our podcast a little bit, but I want to go into it from my perspective and maybe how to do it and set up your time a little bit better to do that. Like I said, with the same material in different libraries, that is, yes, usually on the stock side. Now, on the exclusive libraries side, absolutely not. Only certain songs can go in those things, and they can't be in stock. They can't be in other libraries. Um, but all the stock libraries that I'm in, almost all of them, are royalty free and they are non-exclusive. So I can put them in anything, including Crucial Music, which I can put any of the Crucial Music songs. That's a library. I can still put them in Pond 5 and Motion Array and everything else. Um, so Pete says, my view is that I would be making music anyway. So why not try and make something from however long it takes? Pete, that's kind of the end of this conversation that we're going to have today when I get there, is that very thought. So yes, great thought. And we make music to be shared. Absolutely. And that's where we're going to get to with this thing. So let's see what else we got here. Mtune says, I am an architect, but I still want to pursue full-time in music. Okay. Mtune, I've made full-time income for 20 years. It can be iffy sometimes. As Dave knows, it's good to have a paycheck from a continuing source of income, no matter what happens with your side hustles or your music of your own that you create. But I I I don't. It was a rough transition to go from a corporate job where I was getting paid in the 90s, and then 2000, the very beginning of 2000, I actually not the very beginning of 2000, but I think July of 2000 is when I went 100% music focused, and I took any and every job, and I still take any and every job, to be honest with you. Eventually, there'll be a time when I don't, and I only work on my own music. And one of the videos I actually have planned to do is called the video that you always have wanted to make. And it's basically where I'm going to talk to the camera and say what I've always wanted to say. And which is, I am going to stop doing anything but working on my own music. Wouldn't that be great? So that video is coming up, and it's going to be an interesting one, I believe. Hey, Love 3, thanks for joining us. Kara Lee, thanks for coming in today. All right, so let me take this a step further. We've been talking about why is stock music worth it? But let's take this even farther. I mean, we talked about sync licensing. Is sync licensing even worth it? But is the entire music business a sham? Is any music worth it in the end for monetary purposes? Because when we say worth, we mean what is it going to bring us? What is it going to give us? Hey, I'm glad, M2. Thank you so much. Yeah, Daniel and Stevie B are great guys, and I'm honored to be talking alongside them here on the internet about this stuff. Um, is all the work that you put in, all the songs that you write, all the gigs, all the hope, all the sleepless nights with songs in your head and you can't sleep and you got to get up and you got to put it down somewhere. Are all the people telling you that you should concentrate on things that will make better income? Don't do that music thing. Don't major in music. Don't focus on music. Don't look at your music. Be an architect. The architect pays us. What are you doing with this music? Um, People are always going to say that, and you're going to fight against that. Is all that fight for nothing, for no income? And for many of us, um, we might put out singles as an artist and put them on Spotify, or we might put a song on Pond 5 and tell everybody about our music on Facebook, or get a few pats on the back sometime, and then crickets. It seems like nobody cares. It seems like you're not getting anything back from that. But, you know, it, you might get a few pennies from your distributor, from the stuff you put on Spotify, for the small amount of plays you get. And when you get to this kind of thinking, everything seems like a scam. Everything, I've told people this over and over through my career. You know, it's all great when you're doing music and the money is coming in. It feels like that you have this genie in a bottle, that you get to do music full time, and you get to live a life without a job and just do music only. And it seems like the greatest thing in the world until you can't pay your rent. And then it seems like the stupidest idea anybody ever had. Music? You're making music for a living? What kind of idiot are you to not be able to support your family and pay your bills? I've been in that situation this month, folks. So I know this kind of struggle that we go through. I know that it all sometimes seems like a scam, like this whole thing just seems like lunacy. Um, the whole music business seems like one big con, and everything seems like taxi or any other kind of thing that people might think of as a sham. Like, oh, that's a sham because they charge money. Oh, that's a sham because I'm not getting paid. That's a sham because I didn't get enough money. Spotify is a sham because they're taking all the money. Spotify's not taking all the money, by the way. But if you've listened to David Crosby lately, who said, you know, uh, Spotify is a sham and all this kind of stuff, and everybody should get off there, and he wants all his music off there. And he wouldn't have been saying that about 40 years ago if Spotify was a thing, and they were making Crosby, Stills, and Nash billions with a B. He may be making pennies now, but he would make billions. If he was still out on tour doing reunion tours like everybody else, he would be making billions with a B with his stuff. Now, the problem is he's got a music label. He's got a label that's making the billions, and he's not seeing the billions, and he's going to have to give up his mansion that he's had for 40 years. I'm really feeling it for David Crosby right now. Let me catch up on comments here a little bit. Love them. Sorry, I'm late. No problem. Thanks for being here. DEFCON says, do music as a hobby, or at least look into investing in property or something like that as a backup. That's not a bad idea. These guys are taking advantage of artists. When you say, hey, DEFCON, when you say these guys are taking advantage of artists, do you feel Spotify, stock libraries, and sync libraries are taking advantage of artists? It's a good argument. Pete Mason says, a lot of work for no money. I've heard that over the years. It can be hard for people outside of music to understand, right, Pete? And we're going to get to that here in just a minute. I'm getting ready to turn this all around. So this is interesting, though. M Tune says, I've been a composer long enough but never thought to make income through music. This time I'm committed. And it does take that. I was like that as well. I worked for a corporate job and I did the occasional gig on the weekend or whatever. But eventually, as it and actually it was circumstances. I didn't get fired from my job, but I had to leave it. And I had to make an income with my music. I had to figure out, I was already making income because I was producing people on the side on weekends at nights and things. But I had to make full-time living. And I went to work at a studio and that was it. And I just built a studio business and things like that. DEFCON says they keep cutting profits for artists. You're absolutely right. And labels have been doing this for years. It's not just Spotify. Spotify is not an enemy of anyone. Spotify does not make any money, folks. Spotify barely stays in business. The only reason they stay in business is because the labels keep them propped up. So let's not, it's time for people to quit blaming Spotify. Boy, if I hear another Nashville person say, I hate Spotify. Well, do you also hate Apple? Because you love all your Apple stuff, and Apple Music does the same thing that Spotify does. They provide the music industry, the labels, with a way, and us, by the way, a way to reach everyone. As a matter of fact, I heard a great podcast from, and if you're not listening to this podcast, you should be. It's a guy named Bobby Owsinski, and he should be somebody you know if you don't know already. But he's an engineer, been an engineer, really like Grammy-winning engineer for decades. And he has a great podcast. It's called Bobby Owsinski's podcast or something like that. But look it up. It's a great, you need to be listening to that every week. But one thing he talked about Spotify. Actually, it wasn't Bobby, but he did talk about Spotify the other day and how much people are making for Spotify and how all the payments break down. So you should listen to that. It was Rick Barker, who is also someone who has a podcast. And Rick Barker was Taylor Swift's manager for a long time, and now he's started his own type of thing there. So, Rick Barker said, have been given something that no one has had in the entirety of the music business ever, and that is a way to reach the entire world. You are in every music store in the world. Can you imagine? Even 30 years ago, the only way to be in every music store in the world was to have a music label deal. But now you can put your music up through Amuse or CD Baby or DistroKid, and you can be in every single music library in the world. Spotify, iTunes, Tidal, Amazon, all of these things. You don't understand how amazing that is. We're spoiled because we have all these tools, but I'm telling you folks that people did not have this a long time ago. And a lot of you, the music business means Spotify and all these things. And to you, you look at how little you're getting from Spotify. And I have another video coming at some point where I'm going to break down the math and show you that what you get paid per play on Spotify is equal to what radio pays per person when it spits that out of a radio thing. And it's always been that way for 100 years. So I get really kind of boiled up when people start to talk about Spotify being this big ripoff and how they're taking all the money. The labels are taking all the money. The distributors are taking all the money, not Spotify, who's barely staying in business. But I'm happy that I can be on that. Okay, DEFCON says, there is an artist called Tom McDonald who's independent and doesn't release to stream. He is selling more physical copies than top artists on the Billboard charts. I would believe that. And if you're a hustler, if you get out there and hustle, and I bet Tom McDonald does a lot of gigs. And if he doesn't do physical gigs, live gigs, he does them online. And I bet he is busting it as a live artist. And how many people in this chat are busting it as a live artist right now? Probably none, if any. And people who bust it live still sell physical product. And especially if you can create scarcity, like Tom Dupree talks about in an interview that we did. And he talks about vinyl being such a great product because you can mark it up so high. It's costly to make and time consuming to make. But because it's such a collector's item, people want to buy that and they'll pay $25 for it. They may even pay $50 for it, $100 for it if they're limited copies. CDs may not be the technology everybody wants, but I would be interested in what kind of music Tom does, because I would imagine his crowd still listens to CD, or is his physical copies, well, if you're saying physical copies, that's got to mean CDs or vinyl. So I would bet his audience is an audience in a genre that still listens to that kind of thing. And so uh rap, well, there you go. Rap has always been kind of a cassette. I mean, they were rap has always been sold out of the trunk, basically, is what we used to say, out of your car trunk after the show. I mean, starting in the 70s and 80s when rap was just starting, and all that kind of stuff was sold, and it's still, and you could say all of hip hop. I think you could say that about that. Hip hop still sells a lot of physical stuff because you have rabid fans, and he's going out and likely doing a lot of stuff, CDs, but his marketing is amazing. But it's rap with a positive message. It's very cool. And absolutely that kind of stuff. And if you are a hustler, and we'll get out there and hustle, and see my interview on my channel, and I'll put it up here too, with Tamara Bubble. She is exactly the same type of thing. She's kind of a hip hop artist, rapper, but now she's also a sync agent and killing the sync world. I missed somebody's comment. Pete says, I used to work for a few major labels in the UK back in the days, 80s, 90s. There were a lot of artists and bands that never made it and were dropped and never recouped their advance. I believe that. Long live DIY. Hey, Decent Views, thanks for coming in. We're starting to get into the 20s here consistently now. I still got a ways to go. I have a hard stop at 12 because Pete, not Pete, Pete and I, Pete, you want to do a podcast? No, Stevie and I have to shoot our podcast a little earlier today. So I have a hard stop at 12, but we'll talk right up until then. I'm super excited to be here with you, and I still have a little bit to talk about. So I want to turn this around a little bit now. Are you watching closely? Why stock is not a waste of time. Why stock is worth it. Now, like I said earlier, I actually love stock music, and not because it's a big money maker for me. It was last year. Last year, I could count on $300 to $500 to $600 sometimes. And I know people who have made twice that and 3 times that, and people who are still making some money like that. It has paid car payments for me. It's paid electric bills for me. It's added to my monthly music bottom line, which, as you know, as someone, like I said, who only makes my income from music, I need all the incomes I can get, all the monies I can get. So stock music has added to that in the past year and a half. But the real answer, just like Pete said earlier on today, is that I like making whatever I want and putting it out there. I love making stuff. My business is called Creative Entertainment. My record label that I've run for 25 years is called Creative Soul Records. And everything that has to do with creative, I'm a creative through and through. I write, I do a lot of blogging, I do a lot of fiction writing. Everything has to do with creativity for me. But music making and composing and then creating the productions of the songs is what really makes it happen for me in here. I love making it, and I just want to make it and put it out. So that means putting it out on Spotify. It's kind of a legacy thing. I mean, I want to get everything out. What I love about stock music is that I've composed things for stock that I never would have done otherwise. If it wasn't for stock, I wouldn't have made corporate music. I wouldn't have made music that can go behind videos, behind people talking. I would never have done that. But because I have this stock music possibility, I do it. Now, I have restricted it a bit this year based on how I'm getting paid from it. And you'll need to decide what that means for you. Some of you are only doing this as a side kind of thing on the weekends. So you do this as your hobby. You do this. I'm trying to think what my hobby is other than this, or going to see movies or going to Disney or playing basketball or whatever my other hobbies I have, watching TV, watching, movies or playing PlayStation or something like that. Some of you treat making music like your hobby, and because you have a job that you have to pay attention to and a family you have to pay attention to. And that's important stuff. But I just love to create the music I make. And so I create it and I put it out there for people to listen to. And if it makes me money, then that's great. And it's it it has to a lot of it has to make me money. Now, a lot of the work that I do is not necessarily from my heart, from my soul, but it's work that I'm doing through teaching, through different things. But I'm so happy that I made that music. I'm thrilled with the albums I've made through the years with my jazz stuff, my piano stuff, my own stuff. And I'm loving this stock stuff. I love my sync stuff that I'm making and putting out into the world. And there's nothing like that music getting out there. I just want my music out there. You know what that means? Do you understand that? Does that resonate with you? That I just want my music out with out into the world so that when I die, there is a legacy out there of my music. It's there. Everything that I have done. Yeah, Dave says I can't quit. As I call it, I can't. Oh, you mean World of Warfare? Okay, sorry. I thought you meant I can't quit. Wow, you meant I can't quit World of Warfare. Don't start into a whole World of Warfare and MMO conversation, Dave. This is not the forum for your your fanboy hobbyist adventures. But anyway, just kidding. Mostly. JMO, hey, how you doing? Why does stock music have a stigma of being less quality than sync? Um, well, I think it's because, and I talk about this in my last video about drawing the line between stock and sync. And I think for me, it's because that I create everything for stock in here. There, the only things I've put on stock that I didn't create in here are old stuff, old catalog that I had already done. That's just sitting around doing nothing. But everything I create for stock music, for Pond 5, for Motion Array, all that kind of stuff. I do myself in here. Doesn't take anybody else, doesn't take any other instruments other than the sounds I have in these keyboards right here, and my hands and my mouth and whatever else I use to make these things. In sync, it's a different deal. I am probably making higher end products, higher end songs, and higher produced quality stuff. So I am spending more money on them. I'm spending more time on them, all that kind of stuff. And so I think sometimes people look at it that way, and it's easy to look at it that way and thinking, oh, if this is just a bunch of guys sitting in their little basement studios creating music, then it can't be that good. And so that's all I'm going to get. And a lot of it is instrumental. A lot of it is very simplistic music because it needs to be simplistic to sit behind YouTube videos. So people look at it and give it, and that's why the stigma exists as far as I'm concerned. So this is getting back to Pete's earlier comment. I'm getting it all out there. I'm getting all the music I want out. And stock is a way I can get that out in addition to sync, in addition to putting my stuff out on Spotify, in addition to doing a gig, or in addition to writing a classical piece that's going to be performed on stage, or any other way I get my music out, a video on YouTube or whatever. I am so happy I made this. It's in some ways the money it makes me is less important than the actual making of the music and putting it out there. Now, that's not an excuse for stock music not paying us anything, but that's just, I love making the music. And if there's a possibility of that music then making me money, then great. This is for my own personal music. And I think about, do you think Beethoven cares now how much his music made, how much his music makes? And can you imagine how pissed he'd be if he knew how much money his music was being made now? But I don't believe, other than maybe because he had a personality, or any composer back then, Mozart, he probably liked the attention as well as just making the music. Haydn was someone who just loved making music, but it was also his job. He had a job for a very long time making music. And so all composers, I think, make it because they love it. And the truth is, for any music you do, stock music, sync, artist, stage, publishing, anything, teaching, any of that kind of stuff, if it's worth it to you, whether it be stock music or anything else, it's worth it to you if it brings you joy. Does it bring you joy? Do you have fun making it? Does listening back to it just make you feel? I mean, is there anything better than creating a piece of music and then putting it out there and just and then listening to it back for the first time after you've got the mix done, or getting the mix done and then going and doing something else and coming back to it and listening and going, wow, that music is making me music income, or that music is something I made. That music just speaks to my heart, and I think that is really the answer to, is this worth it? Does it bring you joy? Does making the music and getting it out into the world give you a feeling of accomplishment and satisfaction like nothing else? Is it your drug? Unlike Dave's World of Warfare obsession, is this your drug? Is music the thing that really makes us completely just we're complete? Music, you complete me. Does using the God-given talents that you have make you sleep better at night? It does me. I lay awake and think about all the options and possibilities and things I can do, and it puts me to sleep every night. So what if it's all a scam? Really? I mean, who cares? I've made a good living for over 20 years helping people make music that makes them happy and building careers, including making my own music that makes me happy. That has been a career for 20 years for me, and it's continuing. Yeah, I could have made more and had more security had I stayed in a corporate gig only and done music on the weekends. And guess what? Even if I had done that, I'd be happy because I'd be making the music that I want to make on the weekends, and I wouldn't be as dependent on it for income, to be honest with you. So um, I'm actually looking into teaching now. That might become more of a weekly job, and then my personal music would be the rest of the time, and my channels and things like that. So what if it's all a scam? This is my destiny. This music is what I come back to. I got completely back to it 4 years ago when I decided to really start focusing on uh, music for licensing, and then I started my master's in composition and finished that. And this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is all I'm supposed to be doing. Do you ever feel like that? That this is all you're supposed to be doing? Um, and some people, Decent View says, yes, exactly. JMO says, is it best to write to brief and make? I'll come back to that question. Love 3 says, music always brings me joy, even when I compose dark tracks. Absolutely. Minor is just as beautiful. I heard a minor arrangement of a Christmas song today that just brought me so much joy. Oliver Garcia, thanks for being here, says, totally agree. Dave says, ha. He's laughing at my World of Warfare joke, I believe. Decent View says, can't quit the music. Even though there have been times in my life I don't touch my guitar for weeks or months. Ashamed to say, still come back, and it's like no time has passed at all. Absolutely. As a hobby, because I can do what I like. DEFCON says, I can use weird modes and be as creative as possible. Isn't that awesome? Modes. And have you ever created 12-tone music? There's a way to do that can bring you joy. It's hard to believe. If you know what 12-tone serial music is, to think that there's a way to do that and bring you joy is kind of funny. Cheers, Ghost. Thanks for being here, or Goche, or however I say your name. Thank you so much for being here, and cheers to you, my friends. A lovely beverage. I quit last month, and I'm going to focus on being a session or a teacher. Great. Session player. Great. Excellent. Chick Corea. Yeah, no doubt. Chick has done just about everything. So what if it's a scam? This is our destiny. So what if record labels or Pond5 or Motion Array or sync libraries, what if they're taking advantage of us? And yeah, we're creating music for them for free. Hopefully it's going to bring us money back. When you ask yourself if this is all worth it, when you ask yourself, are all these things just a waste of my time? If you ever ask yourself if stock music or sync music or music that you do or teaching a 5-year-old how to play the piano, or writing some kind of song, picking your guitar back up and saying, is this a waste of time? And your wife is saying, why do you keep all that studio stuff over there? You're not using it. And you get back to it from time. Remember how much you love it. Do it with that love. Be in it for how much you love it. I think that is the thing. Have fun. This is a fun thing. Make it because you love it. And that's what I think. And I hope this has helped you a little bit in this question of, is stock music worth it? Is making music worth it? Is sync licensing worth it? Is putting stuff up to Spotify worth it? All these things. To me, it's worth it. And I would be doing this. And what I was going to say to Dave's comment before I knew it was about World of Warfare, what I was going to say about can't stop doing it, can't stop music as far as music is concerned. I always say I can't not do it. So why not put these songs in stock libraries, especially little things I've had for years, putting them in stock music libraries. What about things that I am creating and have created already for artists? I've got a lot of those already signed to exclusive libraries. We're creating new stuff that we want to create, the stuff that's in our hearts to create, and putting them to sync libraries. And so, yeah, you like that little Star Wars action there for you today, folks. I am not sponsored by Lucasfilm for this video. I don't even know if I'm allowed to say that. If I'm allowed to say, I might get this might get flagged because I said Lucasfilm. Okay, let's look back at some of the things here. Pete, thanks so much. Is 12-tone music? DEFCON didn't get the rest of that. Let me get back to a comment that JMO asked. And is it best to write to brief and making music you love with that instead of making whatever music you want and try to find a use for it? Ooh, that's such a good question. I wish I had a whole nother live video to talk about. I actually, hey, thank you, Mtune, for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Good night in India, and have a great rest, and hope you think about the music that you love. I'm not stopping, by the way, folks. I still have a few more minutes. Because I want to talk about this thing that JMO asked. You know what? I have determined after working with Taxi for the past year and a half, and we're going to get to a place later this year where I will do another Taxi video, which might be my last one, where I talk about if I'm going to go for a third year with Taxi or not. And the answer will probably be tied up in your question, and that is it better to write for briefs than write whatever music you want? And I think the answer is, for me, I prefer writing whatever I want versus briefs. This is why I didn't do good at piano lessons and why I never learned to read very well, is because I was never willing to play by the rules that much. I wanted to play my own thing. Hey, St. Devil, thanks for joining from Ireland. We are all over the world today. India, Ireland, Mexico, Sweden, Wisconsin, everywhere. So, hey, Nathan, just tuning in. Thanks for tuning in. Glad to have you here. Just finishing up here a little bit, but still have some things to talk about. We're talking about now. We've been talking about, is stock music worth it? But JMO asked a great question that I'm trying to answer, and I'm not doing a very great job. But the answer is, writing for brief is great to focus your writing, to focus your creativity on a certain thing that you have to get done. But I think at the same time, thanks for being here from South Africa, DEFCON. Man, glad you're here. I think you have to have briefs to help you focus on what to write. And Dave, thanks so much, buddy. We'll talk to you next time, and we'll see you on this channel here very soon, by the way. Mr. Dave Croft, ladies and gentlemen. And so I think writing to brief, as Dave would agree, I think is a necessary evil. I think sometimes you have to do it. And with Taxi, that's what you're doing. If you want to work for any company that is presenting you with a brief and says, the client is looking for this, 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 and this, and you are writing for that, thank you. We thank you so much, Dave. So, I think writing for brief is important. I don't prefer writing for brief, to be honest with you. I think I prefer just coming up with whatever I just like to do. And so I am not a fan of writing for brief. I do it, and I just did it yesterday, and posted a song up to Taxi yesterday. But I would much prefer to sit down to a blank canvas and just write whatever my heart and my mind and my ears tell me to write. And so I do both. And I think likely as a working composer, you're going to have to learn to do both, especially if you do want to write for briefs for companies, or a company reaches out to you and says, could you write something like this? Or a client asks you, I mean, a client, or let's say it's a friend who comes to you and they want you to write a song for something. That's basically a brief. You're getting, they're saying, would you write a song about me and my boyfriend? And I wanted to talk about um, my love for them and what happened. And so, um, yeah, there is a video actually I'm working on right now called it's on my Hello Composers channel, and I'll put it right up here when it's done. But it's not on there yet. I got to finish editing it, but I go over the song that I wrote for Stevie B's challenge. It's called what is it called? Anyway, it's a really nice tune. It's called From a Parallel Earth, and I really loved writing it, and it will be out soon on my other channel. So keep watching hellocomposers.com. It'll take you right to the YouTube channel, and make sure you subscribe there because it'll be there. And I really had fun. I completely made that on Logic, only Logic sounds, and it was a lot of fun. So love doing that. DEFCON Media says, what do you think about writing trailer music? You know what? I've started doing a little bit of trailer music. As a matter of fact, this very song that JMO just asked me about that I wrote for Stevie B's challenge, the last two things I've written have come off very trailery. And I don't think that'll ever be my thing because I'm a songwriter more than a trailer writer. I think, trailer music is very exactly, just you're really focused on that use, and it has to do certain things. And so I think it's kind of fun to write, but I'm going to try a full trailer, and a full trailer, has ups and downs and kind of does all this kind of stuff. And I'm going to try that at some point because it's not out of my realm of possibility, but I like doing it. Greg, thanks so much for joining. He said he was contemplating whether or not to continue producing stock music and my own artistic music. Dude, keep making your music. Don't stop. And don't let a lack of return from stock music or a lack of interest from people stop you. I mean, if I'd done that, I mean, it is so depressing to put something on Facebook and see one person liked it. And I know what that feels like. I know what that feels like now. And I've been making music for 40 years. So, dude, do not stop. I'm glad you were here for this because lean into the love of the music. That's where it is. That's where it's all about. Even if you never record it or share it with anybody. When I teach lessons to kids, I'm doing some piano lessons for kids right now. I've really never done this before, but I'm getting them to love the piano or whatever instrument we're working on. And so half of the lesson has no book. It's just, what do you like to play when you sit down? And they play these little things they make up and whatever. That's the love. We want them to love it. So yeah, absolutely don't quit. Keep doing stuff, putting it up on Pond 5. Pond 5 is a low bar of entry. And I think another reason that I haven't even got into with stock music is I think it's a great way for beginning composers to get their stuff out there and see a possibility for income. And that can't be understated. And I probably should have had that earlier in this, certainly. But I really think that being having these libraries that there's a lot of them actually, and you could probably get your music into VFine or any of these things, and just getting it out there, Greg, is something that fulfills a bit of a legacy in you. It leaves a legacy. You're putting something you made out into the world, and this is what I've done for clients for 21 years: is help them realize their legacy, and that's encouraging them to continue. I can't make you continue. I can lead a horse into the studio, but I can't make them tour. I used to say, but Literally keep going. Don't stop. Do it for the love of the music. JMO says the competition on Taxi is daunting. Yeah, it is. And I also don't love making music that one person is going to tell me if it's good or bad, if it's worthy or not. So that's another reason JMO writing for briefs doesn't excite me that much. I get to the point, and plus I've done videos on Taxi and I've been on Taxi, and so I don't know if I'm a bit of an enemy of the state on Taxi, and so I don't know if any of my forwards, any of my songs will ever get forwarded again after some of the things I've said about Taxi, which have all been nice, by the way. So I don't know what the problem is, but yeah, it is daunting, and it can feel defeating when you don't get selected to be forwarded. A Decent View says, I think, to be honest, even if I made all this music and was only able to just hear it and play it for my daughter in 10 years and no one else cared, it will still be worth it to me. Yeah, that's legacy. Absolutely, Decent Views. It's absolutely legacy. And that kind of legacy is why we do all music. And stock music is no different. You're leaving a legacy. I have a friend who I met with just a few months ago. We did an album for him, I don't know, 5, 10 years ago. He's a guitar player, good friend of mine. We played forever for a long time together. And he says, I don't know if I ever need to do another album again. That album was for me to give to my girls. He has 2 daughters and a son. And to give to my kids and say, hey, your old man did this. Your dad did play guitar. Your dad did make music. And so legacy is such an important thing. I've considered a label only for the legacy of a lot of the artists or the players that I work with in Nashville, who are very well known inside the circles of Nashville, but they have such great personal music that I want to bring out. Greg Kirkle says, it's the expectations that get me. The expectations of what, Greg? That's what I want to know. What expectations are there other than there's no expectations. Make the music and don't worry about anyone's expectations. Love what you're doing. DEFCON says, I have to go. Thanks for the perspective. Hey, DEFCON, thank you so much for being here. Thank you, everybody, for being here. If you have any last questions, I have just a minute or two left before I have to cut out as well. But thank you so much for joining me on this live stream today. It's been a pleasure to talk with all of you and answer your questions. And I hope that as you've been watching this, that you will remember that all music is only worth it if it brings you joy. And if you're in stock music and it's just a grind, maybe you should do another kind of music pursuit. Maybe you should make music for yourself or for friends. Selling. Yeah, I know the selling thing, Greg, is a thing. Don't worry so much about sales. I know it seems like sales is the ultimate determining factor on your worth, but it is not. Sales is a very fickle thing. You could just have the wrong type of music for stock. Listen, I don't do as well on stock as a lot of people, and I am as just a professional composer as anybody I know who's in stock music. I know people who are getting tons of sales, twice, 3 times, 4 times as much as me. But they're writing exactly what stock music wants. I'm just writing what I like, what I do, what I can. And so that's just how I see this. Saint Devil says, how do you push through the stress of getting ghosted with submissions? Yeah. Yeah. You mean when you like submit to like an exclusive library or something? Hey, you're welcome, Oliver. Yeah. You know what? I send out so many that I don't worry about the ghosted. I've been ghosted a lot in the past year by people who said they wanted my songs. They wanted to pay me 5 figures for it. I was ghosted for that. I've been ghosted by jobs that people wanted me to come teach, and literally universities ghosting me that would not return my emails after they had interviewed me for positions. This is the world we live in now with email. People can ghost very easily. And we don't live in a world where it's only about a phone call. And believe me, back in the days when there was only phones to talk to each people, you got ghosted all the time because people could just send you to an answering machine. So I guess the question is, how do you deal with that? Well, you just move on to the next thing. Just move on to the next thing. there, Saint Devil. Pete, I agree with you, Eric, regarding the taxi submissions. Music is subjective. I've had the same track forwarded and returned by the same screener. Well, that the screener would probably tell you, yeah, it's forwarded because of this particular thing and returned because of this particular thing. So I can see the logic in that. But yeah, I get it. It's a slippery slope there. And there's a lot of taxi intel that we're getting this year that we'll be sharing later this year. That is good, and some that is strange. And so, but you're going to see that with all the stuff that they get. It's crazy. All right, I really have to go in like 2 minutes, so let me get through these. Love them art production, playing, composing, and uploading music on libraries is always so cool for me, and I'm happy when I see that my tracks are accepted by libraries. Yeah, it's cool. It's fun. Just getting those little emails is like a little lift every day. Greg, thank you so much. I'm glad this has been good therapy for you. That's the whole point of these live videos and really my channel in general. I just want to bring what I know, what happens to me. I'm not the only expert in any of this. I am just telling my story. I am just giving you my thoughts as I see them. Alexandra, I didn't say hi when I joined. Sorry. But would like to say a big thank you for this stream. Heard what I need to hear. Great. Man, that makes me so happy. I'm glad that you got something out of this, and I hope everybody has. Saint Devil, thank you. I really appreciate the advice. I appreciate you for being here. It's just crazy to me that people around the world are joining me for this, and I look forward to hearing from more of you. If you're watching this in the replay, make sure you leave a comment where you're from, what your troubles are, how this maybe has helped you. I would love to hear that. Pete says, thanks, Eric. This has been great. Hope to see you next time. And I hope to see all of you next time, as I'm going to have to end the stream now to go record our podcast with my friend Stevie B. Thanks, everybody. Thanks so much for listening to me talk for an hour and a half. Good Lord, what did we have to talk about? White Beam, thank you so much for being here from the beginning. I appreciate it. Thank everybody who has been here from the beginning. And I've got to push the big red button now. Love3, thanks so much for being here this week and last week. I appreciate that. Everybody who's joining in on these lives. It's so much fun, actually. Decent Views, thank you. Have a good one. Synth Street, very interesting stuff. Thank you for being here so much. I appreciate it. Leave comments if I don't get to say something to you in the comments below. So, Dane, thanks for being here since the beginning. I appreciate that. And for last week as well. So, thanks, everybody. And we will see you next week. Keep making music. Don't stop. Don't stop. I'm going to end it. It's ending.